Good evening, everybody. Pastor Bo Wagner here. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well. Just got home from church, and I wanted to go ahead and read the next chapter of Zak Blue and the Great Space Chase, Falcon Wing. That's part one of the series. Part two, Zak Blue, Enter the Maelstrom. The reason I'm doing this is because part three will be in print within about a month or so. It is being edited now. The manuscript's completely done. And it's been so long since I had one of these out that I wanted to go ahead and read these two. So if you'd like, you can listen in and catch up to where we're at in the series. I finished up through chapter 3 yesterday. I'm the age I need reading glasses now. And so we'll find chapter 4, and we'll do at least chapter 4 tonight. Let's see here. Here we go. Chapter 4. Most people are familiar with faster than the speed of light travel, otherwise known as warp drive. I suppose we can all thank Star Trek for that. But man will never be satisfied with any set speed. No matter how fast he can go, he will always seek out a way to go just a tiny bit faster. And that is where the slide drive came in. As a child, Zak had a grasp of warp drive that most adults never achieved. But for lack of a simpler way to explain it, warp drive is all about push. And in a way, that made it no more advanced than when ancient American Indians paddled down a creek in a canoe made of bark. Zak had always somehow known that if you could manage to add pull to the mix, you would go faster. The slide drive was an engineering marvel, so much so that he'd received a failing grade when he turned in a paper trying to explain it, since his expert teachers all agreed that it was utterly unfeasible. Better still, it was no bigger than an old paperback book. Yet when Zak fused it into the warp drive, the Falcon Wing, unbeknownst to his pursuers, suddenly became the fastest ship in the known universe. Not by much, but certainly by enough. Between the push and the pull, which, if it could have been seen by the eye, would have looked something like a treadmill loop of pure energy, the Falcon Wing was now 7 or 8% faster than the fastest ships ever known, and had been blazing across the universe for 7 hours since her escape. But that did not mean they were out of the woods, not by a long shot. Unlike cheesy sci-fi movies, the cold hard facts about warp speed travel is as follows. The faster you go, the sooner you must stop. No ship and no shield can endure the unfathomable strain of that kind of speed indefinitely, not even out in the cold vacuum of outer space. What that means on a practical level, as in when one is being chased, is that whoever has the fastest ship could get to a point quicker than others, but whoever has the biggest ship and the best shields could conceivably close the gap by maintaining warp speed just a bit longer than whoever they were chasing. Thus, at some point, a pursued ship would either have to find a way to disappear or would have to get some kind of a barrier between itself and any pursuer. The good news is, whoever was being chased, though they could be tracked, could choose the time and place they dropped out of hyperspace. Zak knew they were being pursued. The flashing red lights, beeping warning signals, and images on the Celsius screen left no doubt of that. We're pulling away, D, but we won't be able to get totally out of range before we have to go back to sub-warp speed. I count 7 cruisers back of us. That's more than I want to fight by about, 7. Bligi mas malalis. More bad news is the last thing I need. Bligana mas. Teria centroc aptum lasa weldo nafa. Zak checked the forescreen, and sure enough, the Tark was right. There were 3 full squadrons from outlying posts moving to cut them off. That just didn't make any sense. It was just one unusable ship, and he was just one runaway kid. There was no reason for Pet to move heaven and earth to come after him like this. A cruiser or 2, sure, but 7 back of him and 3 squadrons ahead? That he could never have anticipated. When Gerwin McEwen had assassinated Regent Juan Lee, Pet had only sent 5 cruisers to apprehend him. Zak was being pursued like he was a greater criminal than a notorious murderer by a factor of 5. This doesn't make any sense, D. Who in the world has enough pull to overreact like this? The answer really was irrelevant, at least for now. But Zak had the sneaky feeling that at some point it would be very relevant indeed. Whoever they are, they've done their math very well and very quickly. If we take this puppy as far as she will go, we'll be dropping out of hyperspace right into their hands. Speed isn't going to get us out of this, at least not for now. We need a way to put a brick wall between them and us, something they can't follow us through. Oh, nah! Oh, nah! Can you think of a better idea? Ut gofata aptum! Then we die trying, Zak shouted back furiously. Real death would be preferable to what waits for us if we get caught. I will not be caught, not alive anyway. If you want to go that route, just hit the escape pod, pal. I won't try to stop you. But if you choose to stay here, shut your orange mouth and buckle up. Dead or alive, we are going through the Leonid expulsion. Darragon knew it was suicide, but, true friend that he was, and lover of freedom just as fiercely as Zak, he immediately fell silent. He would live with his best friend, or he would die with him, but he would not abandon him. Not now, not ever. Zak knew the odds too, and they were bleak. There was no possibility of escape at this point without navigating the expulsion. There were also about 1,000,000 to 1 odds of actually being able to navigate it successfully. Davian had died trying, and he was probably going to end up dead as well, along with the only real friend he'd ever known. For whatever reason, that thought brought a heavy weight of sadness to Zak. Dying himself he could live with. Irony, that. But being the cause of Darragon's death was almost enough to bring him to a point he never allowed himself to go to, the point of tears. But why should it be that way? Was he not a loner, a rebel, a selfish narcissist? Those were, in fact, the very words written in red on his psych evaluation from his very earliest days in village care. That, and a snide note that he was a loser with little to no socially redeeming value. But musing on the past would not fix the present, and Zak was not one for long reverie anyway. He'd survived his childhood by burning all the feelings out of his heart, cauterizing his emotions, obliterating his concern. He would survive, or he would die, but he would be free either way. But he could not win unless he lived, and Zak wanted to win very badly. It had been that way ever since the loser tag was slapped on him. From that moment, Zak Blue was obsessed with winning no matter what the game or the stakes. I'm going to cut it thinner than a razor's edge, D. I'm going to drop us out of hyperspace so close to the edge of the expulsion that they cannot so much as get a single shot at us. But that means we're going to have to do what even Davian would not have dreamed of. Going into it at that speed is an even bigger fool's game than what he tried. But if we get through it, it'll be days before the cruisers can circle it, and by that time we will be very, very long gone. The Leonid expulsion could not be seen with the naked eye, nor could the quaver rays that it emits. But in a twist of irony, old-fashioned night vision goggles did what even modern sensors could not do. They allowed a person to see the rays flashing at them. Not that this was necessarily a help. It simply allowed a person to see what was going to kill him. For anyone to actually navigate it would take nothing short of a miracle. What would it take? Several things, actually. A ton or 5 of luck, a small ship, nimble controls, and a pilot with hand-eye coordination that was very literally instinctive to the point of being felt as much as it was seen. It could not be thought about. It could not be planned. It could only be as though a person's soul was doing the piloting rather than his mind or his hands. Zak knew he was instinctive, primal, but was he enough so? The difference between yes and no would either be a monument or a gravestone. It's Chapter 4 of Zak Blue and the Great Space Chase, Falcon Wing. Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow night with Chapter 5.